whatever else I want to talk about. It's not always UFOs. So, I'll talk about it. If you want to do anything else in the future, I'm game.
I remember one night I'm listening to you, and I try to listen to all of your shows, and I'm listening to you one night, and Race wasn't in the studio. And I know he's probably listening right now, but he wasn't in the studio, and Jamie was running the show, right? And I'm listening to it, and Race calls me. And I go, dude, what are you doing, man? I'm listening to Dolan. And he goes, oh, really? What's he talking about? I said he's talking about the vitamin shakes he made today. Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Are you serious? And I said, man, actually, I'm writing this down. It's actually
fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It was great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I loved it, man. Oh, you should have heard Race, man. I thought Race was going to have an aneurysm.
I've been trying to tell him, because we're trying to help Ray's get his health back, and I've been telling him about the smoothies and juicing and all that good stuff. I want him to do it. Race, if you're listening, you hear me.
Yeah. He's lost a bunch of weight. I told him he's going to have to donate his clothes. And
fine, good.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal here. You want to give all that stuff away. So.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go. Let's do this.
Let's do our thing.
What did you think about the X-Files?
I was actually pleased to see it, and if I may be permitted to say this, and I'm just going to go say it, the first 5 minutes of the first episode where Mulder comes in with his soliloquy,
yep,
I'm just going to tell you he's literally and exactly quoting my own research, and I'm not saying this without knowledge. Chris Carter attended a lecture that I gave about a year and a half ago. I was in San Mateo, California.
Oh yeah, the Secret Space Program conference.
Yeah, and Chris Carter was there. I had the chance to have dinner with him, and I had other things happening, and that's a long story. But the fact was that, and I know he watched my lecture. There was one statement that Mulder said, for example, in the first 5 minutes, which was there are 10,000 UFO reports in North America alone every year. And I know for a fact that Carter got that from my lecture, because that's been one of, particularly at that time, was one of the big talking points that I would start all lectures off with. Yeah, right. No one else would talk about that statistic. And then the way Mulder was going through like the military sightings, boom, one after the next, and Malmstrom Air Force Base, and this one and that one, and certainly other people talk about those cases, but I mean, the way that he was doing it, that's really something that I've been working on, that exact type of presentation for the last 15 years. And I really feel like, yes, okay, my lectures don't reach 13 million people on YouTube, but through Chris Carter, that reached 13 million people. So I was gratified by that.
Me too. And it's funny that you say that, because I felt the same way about Fade to Black. When I'm watching it, I'm like, that's 1 week of Fade to Black, right there. That first 5 minutes was what we do here, and I just felt, vindicated. I felt like, you know what, cool, and you felt the same way. But what that does say, Richard, is that Chris Carter pays attention. And
yes, I agree. I think, it was nice to see the X-Files. For me, I got into the X-Files like when everyone else did in '93 when it started, around the time that I started discovering the UFO phenomenon, and they were really totally different things for me. I mean, I realized that the X-Files was not history; it was fiction. What got me into the UFO phenomenon in '93 and '94 were the classic books, like by people like Donald Kehoe and Edward Ruppelt and Coral and James Lorenz, and people who wrote in the '50s and '60s.
Right.
And that's where I started. But at the same time, on a parallel track, I was very a fan of the X-Files, and I enjoyed the whole UFO arc that Chris Carter wrote out. And as the show really progressed, I started to think, I wonder how he's getting his information. And I wasn't really that knowledgeable in the 90s about how he was doing all of that. I just assumed that there were researchers that he was in communication with,
right,
which was true. But so in a sense, for me, it's kind of like it reminds me of that era for myself when I was first exploring the UFO phenomenon. And I really got to enjoy it. And it was nice to see the reboot. I don't really have the same kind of emotional, I don't care as much as I might have enjoyed it in the mid-'90s, but it was nice for me to see, for sure.
Well, it was also for me, I had mentioned this earlier in the week, that that 13 million number that you just brought up is extraordinary. And I don't know, but I'm guessing that there was probably 500,000 or 1 million people that were us, right? Us, that are into the subject and we study it every single day and we do our thing. But there was probably 12 million people that saw that show that have never heard of Element 115, free energy, alien hybrid, and that is what he pulled off in spades. Because I can tell you, I don't know the numbers, but Google went haywire the next day. Element 115. You know what I mean? And,
sure. And the free energy, which again, Chris Carter was at that particular conference in San Mateo, which had a lot to do with breakaway technology, free energy, secret space program. There was a lot of that type of talk in there.
Yeah, Bassett was there doing his thing.
Yeah.
So now, but combined with that, the CIA just can't. They're kind of like Donald Trump. They can't let somebody steal the show. And they go and release, their X-Files.
Well, they say.
Right.
I mean, actually, none of that was new. None of that stuff was new.
Correct.
It was all old news.
But the timing, obviously, was deliberate and with intent.
Yeah.
And what did you think about their selection of material?
Well, what I think that they did, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm glad you brought this up, because really what the CIA has pretended to do for all of these years is to release fresh UFO information. And they've never been forthcoming about it, not ever, not even one time ever in their history, not once. So in other words, through the 1950s and 60s and into the mid-70s, the CIA would pretend that they had no UFO data. We don't research UFOs. It's not our domain, et cetera, et cetera. And then they were proven absolutely wrong. They were proven to be liars. By the late 1970s, when the Freedom of Information Act proved them wrong.
Right.
People like Bruce Maccabee and Todd Zeckel and Peter Gersten, a number of others in the late 70s requisitioned thousands of pages of documents from the government, many from the CIA. And suddenly the CIA was in this position of saying, we have some. And ever since then, they've been like the British government's the same thing. Like they pretend to be releasing all of this fresh information when in fact a lot of the release, most of the release is, utterly off the point, uninteresting, not the classified stuff that people are looking for. In the CIA's case, though, they've always acted as though, well, we're just releasing this. The latest batch of documents that they have been talking about have been out in the public domain for decades. Every last one of them. One was the Belgian Congo mine UFO sighting from 1952. Excellent event. I mean, it's a very interesting event, but we've known about this for years and years. I've written about almost all of them, those documents that I looked at in my various books, and I'm not the only one. So it's really the CIA pretending to be open about this and saying, oh, yes, well, here's more, releasing it. And journalists, these mainstream journalists, they do no homework. They don't do any – they're willing to – they like to think that they question the government on all of these other issues, but when it comes to UFOs, they don't question a thing. And they just kind of accept blindly what the government has to say on it.
I don't know if they did the same treatment out on the East Coast that they did out here on the West Coast, but here in Los Angeles, right before the X-Files started, Fox comes on with their news, right? Their news at 11 or whatever, news at 10. And tonight we're going to discuss the CIA's releasing their own X-Files. And of course they run the music in the background. Yeah. And again, it's not to the 500,000 or million of us that were watching the show. It's that 12 million that are watching the X-Files that have no clue. And then mainstream goes and hits them like that. And they are thinking that the CIA is actually releasing these top secret documents finally. And it was how do I say this? You know what? I'll say it. It's the lie that the mass media is doing, out to everybody. And it was just a fascinating thing to see. Rita and I, as we're watching this, we spun and looked at each other and rolled our eyes like, what? Are you serious? but that's how they want to present it to the masses.
It's good that they might remind the public that, hey, we've got these documents. But what they really should have done, had they been honest brokers about the whole thing, is say, for the record, we have long since released X number of documents, all of these that are here. Or actually, what they should say, to be truly honest, is a number of researchers pried them from our closed fists, and they ripped them out, and they're in the public domain, and now here they are. That would be the honest thing to say, but they don't. Of course, they don't do it. This is all for spin. It's all to give the public the idea that, oh yes, well, we're totally open with you.
And did you
anything but?
Did you? I went to the CIA website, by the way, right? So I go, and yes, I did, and I'm clicking around, and
I've been there, sure.
Yeah, and well, I'm paranoid every time I do it, but anyway. Their how to research a UFO, how to photograph a UFO. Did
I
you
didn't
see
even
that?
bother with that. So I saw that and I just said, "Oh,
I know."
So what was that?
Right, and the other thing that I did do
was it interesting?
No, it wasn't, and it was funny. But no, let me tell you what I did do. I went and clicked, and I swear I thought I was going to get email from doing this. I went and clicked on employment opportunities.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
And I poked around and went and looked at the benefits packages, the pay, the requirements, the training programs, and I ended up spending an hour on the CIA website, clicking all over the place and reading. And that I found a lot more interesting than the Rex Files.
Hell. You're going to get decent benefits with all the cocaine trafficking and securities banking fraud that they engage in. So,
it was pretty wild. So to be an agent, I forget the classification of this particular agent, but it said you have to be willing to be covert and to work and not to let anybody know what your real job is. And you can't discuss things with your family, with your friends, right? And they have this whole job description. It was like the creepiest thing ever, and it's right there, man. You should go check it out. It's a pretty fascinating read.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty fascinating read.
They have to be, they have to, I mean, that's standard is, you can't tell people that you're in the agency, and whether it's any other department, the State Department, of course, famously, but I'm sure many others.
They did say that you would be stationed in the Washington, D.C. area first, right? To learn how to keep a job, covertly, I guess, not tell anybody. But then you will be spending all of your time overseas.
Well, so anyone listening to this, here's my advice. Don't join the CIA. Just don't do it. Don't do it.
It was fascinating. And the pay grade, I think starting pay was like, it was like 54 grand, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, with good benefits, of course. I mean, it's all based on a system that's just it's truly destroying this country of ours.
It totally is. And now we're going to be up against a break in 60 seconds. Right. So before we head to the break, what are you going to be talking about in Big Bear?
I have been rethinking and trying to, as a fresh approach as I can, of looking at the extraterrestrial hypothesis for the entire UFO phenomenon. So I'm looking at the evolution of that hypothesis as it started in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and how it really morphed, and how other competing ways of looking at the phenomenon have kind of come in, the interdimensional ideas and much, much more. And then, but really trying to look at the ETH in a fresh way with the 21st century perspective in terms of what are we really dealing with? If these are extraterrestrials, are they the kinds of extraterrestrials that people thought about in the 1960s? The answer, no, I don't think so. I think it's a much more complex situation with a lot of high strangeness. But having said all of that, I think the ETH remains a viable way to look at one of the possibilities, but it can't be. We're in a way more complex situation than we were half of a century ago when looking at this.
Yeah, let's talk about that after the break, because the original ETH for me was something that I think all of us accepted. Okay, I mean, we didn't have another view of looking at it, but I was also very confused by it because it was impossible to pull off. Right, and we'll talk about what ETH is, and then your modern take on it. That's going to be fascinating tonight. Richard Dolan. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Richard right after this quick break. What is ETH? Richard's going to tell you right after this. Stay right there.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our number one seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Richard Dolan. Ben Hurle is going to be here in a few short minutes. Jimmy at JimmyChurchRadio.com is the email. At JChurchRadio is Twitter. We do about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tweets per show. Come hang out in the sandbox. Hashtag F2B. Last night, for the X-Files, something strange happened. Some kind of weird synchronicity went down. And it was this. Last night we had on Suzanne Chancellor on the show, and she told us about her new partner out in Rhode Island. His name was Jack. And we talked about Jack for the last half hour of the show. Okay, so then we get home after the show last night. We get the X-Files going, And what happened in the X-Files? Back to back, we had, right in almost nearly the same scene, the jackalope, the Jack Russell Terrier, and the name on the grave was Jack. This is like totally weird, right in a row. Jack. We had a Jack evening last night. It was pretty bizarre. I don't know if you caught that last night, Richard, but
I didn't. I missed the X-Files, but what I will say is I just, in the last couple of months, published a really fascinating and bizarre but fascinating book by Mike Cleland, who's a friend of Suzanne Chancellor. And Mike's book is called The Messengers, and it's subtitled Owls, Synchronicity, and the UFO Abductee. And the key word here is synchronicity. I got to tell you, that book, it's still, my mind is still reeling from it, and we've had it out for a couple of months now. But he really talks about absolutely bizarre synchronicities in connection with the UFO phenomenon and a lot of the high strangeness that people experience, and in connection with sightings of owls. The point here is that the big takeaway that I get from that book is, it's hard to avoid, frankly, is that there seems to be this kind of directing intelligence that gives you a little tap on the shoulder every so often to get your attention. Because what is a synchronicity but a meaningful coincidence? And now you are talking about Jack.
I mean, what are the odds of that?
It could be a coincidence, but I don't know. It's odd.
I know. It was tripping. So anyway, that happened last night, and it was just one of those things that it catches your attention, and then you don't have a choice but to be focused and pay attention. And it happened last night. It was bizarre. Now, before we jump forward, we were talking about ETH, and ETH does have its own definition, by the way. You can look it up in the dictionary. And here's the definition: proposes that some unidentified flying objects are best explained as being physical spacecraft occupied by extraterrestrial life or non-human aliens from other planets visiting Earth. That's the original ETH. You're saying that?
I'm glad you read that.
Yeah,
I'm very glad you read that.
Well, my problem with the ETH, this is way before the concern of ETH came up. About 20 years ago, I was over on a UFO forum back in the early days of the internet on Paranet or something, one of the old ones.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm there and I'm causing trouble. And one of the things, and this discussion was ongoing, and I jumped in and said, look, there is a problem here. And the problem is this. If all of these sightings and videos and contact and abductions occurred, then that means there is a freeway leading to planet Earth that is bumper to bumper flying saucers. That's what that means. I mean, it would just be a nonstop. It would be a traffic jam. And that was my weird way of looking at my subconscious telling me that the ETH, although cool, and it was, but it can't really work, and certainly. This was
Jacques Vallée said, very similar things to what you're suggesting and what you suggested all those years ago, which was simply that the number of sightings, for example, that people are having, and even back in the 70s, I think when he was talking about this, it was just way too many, thousands every year around the world. He says, really, are these aliens visiting from another planet, flying around our atmosphere in the thousands every year? It didn't make sense to him. So, there are natural problems with the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I still actually feel that it's at least as viable or more viable than most other theories I can think of. The problem with the UFO phenomenon overall is that when you really get down to it, one of the reasons it's so frustrating and so fascinating is because there is no one single theory that is truly satisfying when you really think about it. Not the ETH, not the interdimensional hypothesis, not in my view, not the hypothesis that everything is a psychological or sociological phenomenon, not the hypothesis that everything is a hoax or misidentification.
Right.
When you start looking at all of these individual answers as supposedly the answer, they all of them fall short in one way or another, and so that's what makes this very much a challenge. The ETH, though, really, as I've been looking into this for this particular conference where we're going to be in Big Bear Lake, I realize that the ETH is rooted into our kind of modern consciousness. You go back 100 years, go back to writers like H.G. Wells, who wrote War of the Worlds, or the Buck Rogers stories. I actually last summer purchased a complete Buck Rogers collection. It's fascinating, from the 1930s on up. And similar types of sci-fi. What you realize is like the world that those writers lived in was the world of like the Wright brothers, basically. I mean, where human beings were just taking to the air. And human civilization 100 years ago was absolutely predisposed to think about what is the great frontier. It's the sky.
Right.
And beyond that, space. And so I think there's a very strong predisposition to think about beings from outer space. Really not surprising. And so then you enter the flying saucer phenomenon in the 40s. And it wasn't that difficult, I think, for people to hypothesize, oh, wow, well, we're not making flying saucers. Therefore, it might be likely that they're coming from another planet.
But
and so, I mean, that's how it went in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. A lot of these researchers who were into the phenomenon hypothesized as probably beings from elsewhere. Are they from Venus? Are they from Mars? This was very widely discussed back then.
Well, and so let me jump in where ETH 100% works as a theory, as a hypothesis, is what if they are here in our own solar system? You know, what if there is an alien base on the dark side of the moon? What if they are coming from Mars? What if there is something that we just don't know about? And you think about the movie Mars Attacks, right? And you kind of wrap your mind around that for a second. But that's where ETH would absolutely apply and work. It doesn't work if they're coming from the Sirius star system. You know,
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I'm not sure I would be so willing to dismiss it from another star system. It seems, I agree with you in that it seems like it would be improbable. After all, the distances between the stars is vastly orders of magnitude beyond the distance between the planets.
Right.
I think we understand that. But no, I wouldn't quite be willing to rule that out. And this is what gets me into kind of a revised ETH. First of all, I guess what I would like to say is the ETH really kind of, it didn't fall apart in the 60s and 70s, but it was very much undermined by people like Jacques Vallée and John Keel and other individuals who realized that these beings, if that's what they are from elsewhere, they haven't invaded, and it's been a couple of years now. There's been no announcement. There is a lot of high strangeness that doesn't seem consistent with simply beings in spacesuits coming from another planet. So none of that made sense. It's true. You have Vallée talking about, well, maybe the ancient fairy phenomenon is related to this, and John Keel talking about ultra-terrestrials, and on and on. I would still say that. And there's one other thing. This really worked against the ETH, which was, I guess we can call it the distance argument. It's kind of, you were implying this yourself, the distance between the stars, and the basic impossibility of us getting into any kind of spacecraft that we can think of and making it to the nearest star. And the other thing that a lot of scientists pointed out, or at least some theorists pointed out, was the likelihood of the brevity of an advanced technological civilization. I mean, they're looking at us, of course. We've only been around for a short period of time, and we're already teetering on a possible self-extinction. I think we can all recognize that that's a possibility.
That's right.
In other words, we haven't been here long. And if that is replicated on a widespread basis elsewhere, then it would be likely that other civilizations would not have the opportunity to last long enough to get it out there to the stars. So all of these things made people think, maybe no ETH. I would say I look at it a little differently. And I mean, if you wanted to jump in, I didn't want to.
But see, I'm going to make this very brief. If we look at somebody that's tremendously advanced, past us, million years, let's just pull a round number out. Well, then certainly folding space, wormholes, technology, gravity, bending, all of that comes into play. And just maybe that flying saucer that doesn't have a lot of food, right? And people that don't age because it would take, a million light year, whatever, to go across. That maybe it takes them 3 minutes. Maybe it's that. And that would take care of the ETH. So I do recognize that side of it too. I was just trying to answer the nuts and bolts thing in my own mind. If you remember, really quick, I'm going to say this. I'm sure you read Arthur C. Clarke's Rama series. Okay. right? Okay,
maybe,
it's okay.
Maybe back in college.
Okay,
I might have read.
Okay, it's okay to say no, but what he did do,
I don't think I read much of it, if any.
Well, his contact version was an ETH hypothesis, in that it was a ship that had been traveling for tens of thousands of years, and it was on a trajectory to Earth.
Right. Okay.
And this ship was 150 miles long, 50 miles. It was a tube, right? A tube.
Okay.
And with a city on the inside of it of robots. Okay? And
cool.
that was it. And that ETH version of the nuts and bolts craft, not bending space and so forth, made sense. And that's how ET would get here. Quite simply, no food. It's just robots. And again, it answers, it fixes the problem, the conundrum.
Well, and let's take it another step and look at AI, artificial intelligence.
Right.
I've been really turned on by looking at AI and its connection to ufology since probably my first published book almost 15 years ago. I remember when I read Ray Kurzweil for the first time, and it was at the time, it was a mind-blowing experience for me. I read the book called The Age of Spiritual Machines, which is still a great book.
Yep.
And what became evident to me is that with sufficient advances in artificial intelligence past what they call the singularity, in which computing intelligence becomes self-aware and so on, that alone, you and I aren't going to make the trip to the nearest star, but can a highly advanced artificial intelligent ship or craft, make it? And I think, yeah, in theory, I don't think there's any problem with that. And would they be able to devise ways that are beyond our own civilization's ability to understand ways of propulsion technology? And now we're on the verge of not simply AI breakthroughs, but quantum computing and genetics and being able to so all of these things, when you start looking at the confluence of all of these factors, and then let's look at these other creatures or beings that people claim to be interacting with, and let's just emphasize claim, but there are a lot of these cases. There's a lot of very strange types of beings that people are talking about, and if any of this is true, what might explain it? It's certainly possible that these are artificially created beings. I cannot imagine that any extraterrestrial that we might be interacting with that might make it from here is not unenhanced in one way or another. So I would think that every extraterrestrial that arrives here is probably genetically enhanced, modified, or is just out and out artificial in one way or another. Like the Greys. We have so many reports of these gray aliens. To me, everything about them strikes me as artificially created type of drone entities that are highly intelligent, yes, but I mean, they're not seen to have sex organs, for example. Mm-hmm. And why would you, if you're creating a drone race of workers, why would you want to give them the ultimate distraction, literally, of sex organs? You wouldn't. There's no point to it. Right. So I think if those reports are true, if there are such beings as Greys, I'm inclined to think probably there are. There's just a lot of these cases that talk about them. Then I think that they're probably artificially created, and that makes sense to me. I mean, that very much makes sense. The other thing about the ETH, though, that has struck me is if these beings are from elsewhere, they are clearly living here. And they have been living here for a long time. So does that make them extraterrestrial? I think it makes them permanent residents. I mean, I don't know any better than you do or anyone else here. Where are they actually from? Because I'm not privy to that answer. But there are so many cases, for example, of in utterly remote parts of the world, of craft coming out of the ocean, out of the Arctic Ocean, for example, out of the depths of the Indian Ocean. I mean, where there's just no one there. And yet these things are going into and coming out of the ocean. Enough of these reports that make me think this is happening. And what are they doing? They're existing in a very often isolated, quiet manner away from human civilization because they evidently don't really want to interact with us on a daily major basis.
Well, I wanted to get back to your Ray Kurzweil comment, because one of the answers for the ETH problem, because there is a problem with it, or a few, is what if Dolan's consciousness, yourself, is downloaded on a USB drive? Now that answers everything. Now you can build your starship and go for 1 million years. Where,
exactly. And that throws out the window the whole argument that our civilization's so brief and wouldn't survive. I mean, if you've got the ability to kind of store and save, even artificially, certain things, then I think you have the ability to last a lot longer.
Yeah, and that world that you would be living in on that computer would be just like you and I sitting here right now. It would be completely simulated. You would be alive. You could probably even go drive a car, all on a computer chip. You could live your life, right? And you could be that guy, but you don't have to eat. You don't have to take a dump. You don't have to breathe oxygen.
No, right.
You don't have to do anything.
Well, like an avatar.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we are. This is what's really scary about the singularity and this concept. Is if you and I had another good solid 40 years on planet Earth, right? If we could, hang out that much longer, then we could be that guy in the USB. And I think that immortality answer could be right. I mean, we are getting really, really close.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Kurzweil has been saying this for a long time, and now he's no longer really an isolated voice. There's a number of other people who think that this is very likely. And my big fear, and I don't know if this is off topic or not, but it's still interesting. My fear is that this will happen, but I don't think it's going to happen for everyone. My fear is that it'll happen for those who can afford it.
That's right.
And that includes not just immortality, but enhanced intelligence, enhanced strength, just like, better genetics, better everything. And we're really looking at a kind of, hopefully not, but possibly a nightmarish type of transhumanism, for those who can afford it.
Well, that transhuman, Kurzweil, all of these dates have been predicted, but Kurzweil is actually saying, he's throwing numbers around like 2018 as early as.
Oh, for the singularity?
Yeah, for the singularity. That's a frightening concept.
That's 2 years from now.
That's 2 years from now. And it's not frightening if you're aware of it and you have your concerns and you have an off switch, that is prepared for.
He's actually possibly right because and this also, I've often speculated about, where's the black budget world? Have they achieved advanced AI? Have they achieved a singularity? And I honestly don't know the answer to it.
What's your gut, though?
James Bamford, who studies the NSA, thinks that quantum computing at an advanced level has been achieved. At least he thinks so.
Yeah. They actually had the speeds that we are at now in 1970. I've heard that same. I've heard that same thing. I wanted to say really quick, DARPA, their concentration, you look at their budget, you look at what they're doing now, it's all AI. Everything is consciousness. Everything is quantum computing with consciousness.
But here's the thing, like going back to what Kurzweil was saying, which is that he believes we will achieve this singularity in 2 years. I didn't realize he said 2018, but it's not outrageous when you really think about it because I was just reading about this. So a decade or more ago, the most advanced level of intelligence I think that they were able to achieve with AI was that of some kind of insect. And now it's that of a mouse. And, we look at a mouse and think, oh, wow, big deal. But that is a big deal.
It's a big
and that's
deal.
A massive order of magnitude beyond that of an insect. So the kind of growth level that this is going is actually exponential.
Yeah, and
they could achieve human level intelligence in a few years.
We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to get 2 points out really quick. And again, thank you, Richard. I can't wait to see you in 2 days. DARPA made the announcement. I think I announced it last week that their next step and their next phase of research to get done in the next year is the interface that will convert brain waves to computer language, and that is their focus. Now that just that just messes. If that's the complication, that's the thing that is stopping everything from recording dreams, recording thoughts, downloading consciousness, and everything else. If they get that language together to interface those two, it's over. It's over. Now, really quick, because I want you to jump on your platform here. As you know, 2001, September 10th, 2001, Cheney admitted to losing $3 trillion, right?
Rumsfeld, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, Rumsfeld, same crew. losing $3 trillion. Here we are today in 2016, and obviously that number has grown. But where do you think that $3 trillion went?
Good question. Actually, what Rumsfeld did, because the Bush people were brand new at that time. It was their first year, and he was really laying this on the Clinton years. He said, essentially we've inherited a situation where everything's so snarled up. There's 2.6, then he said $2.3 trillion in transactions that he said that are not accounted for, that are lost. So after he made that statement, of course, the next day was 9/11, and we kind of forgot about it. But in fact, now officially, the official story is that a fellow named Dov Zakheim got on top of it. He's another neocon, like them all up there, and was getting on top. Let's figure out this, resolve the discrepancy. And if you actually were to go onto the Wikipedia entry, this is a joke. They said, oh, yes, well, we got that number down to 500 billion 6 months later, and got it then ultimately down to zero. So in other words, it's like balancing the checkbook. And if you want to believe that, maybe I can sell you a bridge.
Yeah. We found $3 trillion.
It's absolutely just not credible. And keep in mind, when Rumsfeld was talking about the $2+ trillion that were, he didn't say missing. That's really what he meant. He said unaccounted for.
Unaccounted for, right.
That was 8 times the Pentagon's budget for 2001 for fiscal year 01. The Pentagon's budget for fiscal year 01 was, I think, $310 billion.
Well,
he's talking about how do you misallocate 8 times your annual budget?
It's like the budget for the entire world.
It was actually like close to the GDP of the United States for that entire year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know the exact number, but close.
It's an insane amount of money, and I can't imagine the amount of construction, what could have been built, what could have been bought with that money. It boggles the mind.
I'm sure that some of it did have to do. Back then, the Pentagon had several hundred separate computerized accounting systems, and it could very well be, this one wasn't talking to that one, and that one wasn't talking to this one. And it's possible that there was some discrepancies there, but there's no way, absolutely no way credible that that a vast amount of that wasn't just siphoned out, and where did it go is really the big question. I do believe a lot of it certainly went to line people's pockets so they can live like emperors, but I think a lot of it went into a black budget infrastructure, and some of which had to do with the UFO phenomenon, which has to be funded. It's expensive. It's expensive to research exotic technology that you're hiding from the rest of the world, and it's expensive to create an infrastructure to conceal that from the rest of the world, and so much more. So yeah, they're totally motivated to siphon the money out. And as Catherine Austin Fitz, who is one of my favorite people in the world, has often said, what it looks like to her is that we do not have a closed global financial system in which everything accounts, but that we have an open system. In other words, something outside is affecting our global financial system. And her belief currently is that something happens to be a breakaway civilization.
Yeah, I think it's that. Obviously, underground stuff that we don't see built above ground, that has to get paid for, and there's a vast infrastructure there. But when you look at and we're going to be wrapping up here in about 30 seconds, but the secret space plane and that entire project that the Air Force is doing.
You're talking about the XB-37, I believe?
XB-47? Yeah. That's a ton of money. And what is it doing up there for 2 years, at a stretch? And when we think about...
right, exactly.
Yeah, 2 years.
And think about how lame our media is. I know it's time to go, but no one asks these questions. No one in CBS and no one in Fox and no one in NPR. They just, whatever the military says, and they just let it go. Why do they not ask these questions? Like, what is your mission? How does this whole thing work? What's your technology? Oh, well, we're not allowed to ask. So, okay, sorry, we won't ask. What has happened, to American journalism? It's just gone completely down the toilet.
That's why you and I are here, and that's why you are Richard Bleepin Dolan. Thank you so much, brother, and I'll see you in 2 days.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Jimmy.
Richard Dolan, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll take a quick break. When I come back, Ben Hurle is going to be here live from Australia. Yeah, you need to come up to Big Bear, hang out with Richard and Rita and I and everybody else. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back with Ben Hurle right after this. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Ray Sobbs here once again to tell you about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place in the ski resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. What a lineup. Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky, Micah Hanks, George Norrie, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, keynote speaker Stanton Friedman, and more. Along with the speakers and lecturers, join the luncheon hosted by Jimmy Church. See a world-class UFO ET-themed ice sculpture contest with attendees voting the winner. Enjoy the quaint shops, restaurants, and pubs in Big Bear Lake Village, and enjoy some of the best sky watching you can imagine. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself with a retreat the first week of February and come relax with us in a premier ski resort town high in the mountains of the Southern Sierras with an average of over 300 sunny days a year. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now. Visit our website and register at aliensnowfest.com. That's aliensnowfest.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I want to thank Richard Dolan. You can check out the Richard Dolan Show right here on KGRA. It's always a fascinating night with him on the show. Ben Hurle also has his show right here on KGRA. And he is live with us right now from Australia. He is the president of the Victorian UFO Action, host of the Ben Hurle Show as well. And Australia, it has a rich UFO history that ranges from ancient Aboriginal legends that hauntingly parallel the modern-day UFO phenomenon to cases from first settlement stuff from 1788 right through to the present day. Every region and every major city seemingly has its own UFO history, and Australia is an ancient land. It's a place of ancient secrets and customs that interweave with its inhabitants, and it's creating a rich and unique tapestry of experience that is totally captivating. And tonight, we're going to discuss two of the most famous UFO incidents in Australian history, if not world history. The Kelly Cahill case and the 1966 Westall UFO incident, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this April 6th. It is one of the most compelling documented and researched cases in the world, now with over 200 witnesses. Ben's website is VUFOA.com. I would like to welcome to Fade to Black for the first time our partner, Ben Hurle. Ben, how is it?
Hey, Jimmy, how are you doing, mate?
Hey, it's good. What time is it in Australia right now?
Right now it is 3:35 p.m. and it is Wednesday here, so we are in the future.
Yeah, it is tomorrow.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, totally cool. It just messes with it's hard enough when I have on a guest from Italy, right, over in the UK, and trying to wrap my head around that. But no, you are tomorrow.
I am tomorrow.
You are older than me right now. Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre. How are you, man?
Yeah, mate, I'm really, really good. I've just finished holidays, so I'm ready to go. I'm full of energy again, revitalized. Recorded a show for my own show, which will be coming out shortly. So yeah, I'm feeling really good.
When it comes to Australia, and we have such a large audience for Fade to Black over in Australia, and it's great because they participate. I'm watching Twitter now. Everybody thinks, they're our brother Ben. Finally we have Australia here, and you guys have some of the most fascinating history. And one of the things, before we get to Kelly Cahill and Westall, two of my favorite cases, is I don't know if you remember, but there was a scene in the movie Apollo 13. You remember that?
Yep.
No, I'm sorry. It was The Right Stuff. I think it was The Right Stuff. And John Glenn, or, one of the early astronauts, he's orbiting the Earth. And these fireflies start buzzing around his capsule. And he's describing it back to Houston in real time on the radio. And then at that same time in Australia, these Aboriginal Indians are having a little thing around a fire where they're causing these fireflies to go up and swarm around. At the same time, he's seeing them in space. And I thought that was always an interesting connection that was taken with our space program in Australia. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that scene. It's a great juxtaposition of the modern space age, steeped with ancient history. So it certainly was an interesting take.
Yeah, and most people that were watching The Right Stuff, and it was a hugely successful film, did not know about and wouldn't have known about the Aboriginal connection to ufology and to space. I thought that was interesting and very cool.
That's correct. Yeah, there is a lot of the Aboriginal culture is still relatively intact in the northern part of Australia. So, particularly up in Western Australia and the Northern Territory, the culture is quite rich and it's still pretty much intact. And that's where the majority of the space connection can be still found today. Down in the south where I am, they decimated the Aboriginal population, and a lot of that culture has been destroyed. So in the south, we don't quite have the same level of information available as they do up in the top end of Australia.
What's the mountain range that has the cave paintings?
Up in the Kimberleys, I think it is, up in the Kimberley area in the Western Australia.
Yeah, have you been there?
No, I haven't been there. I've been to Darwin and I've been to Arnhem Land. Arnhem Land is an Aboriginal territory, and on a tour bus, they put you on a tour bus because you can't go wandering around over there. They took us out to view these ancient paintings, and they really are quite incredible. When you look at them, there's a lot of spiritual connection through the imagery that they paint. And you look at some of the images that they've got out there, you've got to be careful putting a modern slant on ancient images because it's really easy to read into things. But you look at those images and you go, wow, there really does appear to be a connection to others, and those others could easily be perceivably as coming from out of space or from dimensions. So it is quite rich and relatively open in the culture up there.
Well, when you look at those, there's no question that they were seeing something and that were wearing helmets. Now, 10, 15, 20,000 years ago, what possibly could they see? And I say this all the time, Ben, but I really mean this. If you're going to take the time out of your day when you need to be out hunting and surviving and eating, because that's all you had to think about all the time, to take your time out of your day to go and put that stuff on the wall, it's because it was important and they want it documented, and they did it exactly as they were seeing, and that's the part that messes with my head. The helmets and it looks like, space suits. It really does. It's not like we're making a connection. That's what it's a drawing of. It's not a drawing.
Right. You talk about something that's, say, even 1,000 years old. It's not going to be some Portuguese ship,
Right.
It's not a Dutch spice company ship coming past. You're talking about some exotic hardware.
Yes.
No question.
Yeah, no doubt. No
question at all. And that's the thing, the land here is ancient. It's part of the original, Gondwana complex of the original landform right back from when the Earth was formed. So, and the population has been here for a very long time. So that the ET or the presence of others from other dimensions, whatever it is, they've had a strong connection to our country for a long time. And as you alluded to, every area of the country does have a rich UFO history. Mightn't happen every day, but there are great cases that have occurred right across the country, and certainly within Aboriginal culture. There's stories of beings landing from the sky, of women being abducted by these beings, babies being taken. All that type of stuff does exist in their culture. And interestingly, too, they also have other let's say creatures, for want of a better word, that are a part of their culture that also may have some basis in reality as well. And as another side project I'm going to look at some of the Aboriginal mythical creatures to see whether there is where the basis of legend and reality might actually meet.
I think I lost Ben. I lost you for just a few seconds there. So can you repeat that for me?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm not sure you lost me, but every area.
Oh no! We're breaking up, Ben. We're breaking up. Okay. Yeah, we're breaking up just a little bit. Let's see if I got you now.
I am a fair way.
Okay, we've lost you, Ben. Just hang on, and I'm going to reset the connection. You just stay right there. This happens. It happens from time to time. It's okay. It is Australia. What's so funny is, hey Ben, are you there?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Now we reset the connection. Okay. Let's before we head, we've got 15 minutes to the break, and I want to talk about the Kelly Cahill case first. We spent a lot of time last week talking about this, and it was fascinating. And most of our audience had never heard of the case, and they were just like me, completely fascinated with the case. Now, a couple of things I want to set for everybody. Kelly Cahill was not her original name. She changed her name to protect herself. Is that right?
That is correct. All the names I'm going to mention today are all cover names.
Okay. All right. And did you have the opportunity to meet her before she left Australia?
Unfortunately, no. I have not had that chance to chat with her. The case occurred in 1993. Her book came out in 1997.
Right.
That's when the case really took hold with everybody. Like that's when the media were on it. That's when the book was out. She was doing the tours, and it became a really big thing at that time. I think I was about maybe 24 years old at that time, and I wasn't doing UFO research, but I was interested in the case because anyone who's had a look at the case can see that on many levels, it has a lot to offer. And she basically, in the end, got sick of the whole thing, and she basically has since, to a certain extent, distanced herself from it. So the researchers in Australia that I'm familiar with, and I know practically everybody, at this point in time, no one knows exactly where she is.
I've heard reports of her being in Asia somewhere.
Yeah, that could be true, but I've heard reports that she's back in Australia too. So it's at this point in time, I want to put it out there, Kelly, if you're listening to us, the modern audience would certainly love to talk to you again about this case from that period of time. And modern researchers in Victoria would also like the opportunity to discuss it with you.
And I'm sure she is going to hear this. Somebody out there knows her, right? And they do. Yeah. This is too big of a show, and it's going to trickle back. Plus, I have my people over in Australia, too, desperately trying to search for her. So now there's a couple of interesting points on this. Like you said, it touches on so many levels. First off, you have been to the location.
I certainly have been to the location, and now it's quite built out. It's the suburbs have caught up with that area. But back in 1993, it was empty fields. So, there was just long grass out there. It was dark skies. There was no street lighting at that particular point in time. So when I went out there a few years ago, which I did on the UFO TV special, it was starting to get built up. And last year I went there again, and it had even been built up further. So the actual location is getting consumed by suburbia. And that's a real shame in some respects because, the people in the area, to a certain extent, are losing connection with this extraordinary event that occurred there.
I went to, in Phoenix, there was this, in Cave Creek, north of Phoenix, north of Scottsdale, there was a UFO incident that happened in the late 40s there, early 50s. Craft landed, was then moved away on a truck, on a flatbed. The witnesses were there, but at that time, it was remote. Immediately after that, I went to the location in the 90s, drove there, but immediately after they removed it, I'm talking about 6 months later, they built a parking lot over this plot of land out in the middle of nowhere. They built a parking lot and put a fence around it, and then they ended up building it up. And when I went there, that parking lot that they built is still there, but now there's a couple of stores. But it was just interesting how any trace evidence or any evidence of anything there at all was immediately paved over with a parking lot.
Well, here's something interesting for you, too, about the Kelly Cahill location. Now, it was still visible on Google Maps up until recent times. What we believe to be the tripod impression that was left in the ground was actually still visible in the field. Now, and at the time when it was there, I took a screenshot of it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, since that time, if you go onto Google Maps now to the address where the location occurred, those marks aren't in that field anymore. And I almost suspect that the image has been doctored in some way because it was there clear as a bell in recent times. The three marks were still in the ground. Now you look at that location, there's nothing there at all. So I find that quite interesting too. You talk about, things, concrete being poured and all that sort of thing going on. I think that where evidence remains, it certainly is even subtly swept up and disposed of, even if it's over time.
And the other interesting thing that for the Kelly Cahill case, it wasn't just her. It was her husband, the people in the blue car, multiple witnesses, and with testimony.
I want to make this clear to everybody out there exactly how big a case this has the potential to be.
Right.
You've got so many things going on in this case. It is complex, and it has everything that you would want to tick off the list. This case has it. Its most distinguishing feature by far is the independent witnesses. You had six people standing on that field on that night, 3 independent parties. That is quite an incredible thing, to a high strangeness case. Lots of people can see lights in the skies, which is kind of Westall's a little bit like that, but it's still a little bit more special than just a lights in the sky case.
Right.
But you've got a high strangeness case occurring where beings are on the ground, and you've got 3 independent parties in that location at the same time. That is a special event.
What did the other witnesses besides Kelly? Where are they?
That they are also still hiding in the woods, Jimmy. All that was released about I can tell you a little bit about the other parties. Okay, so the first car was Kelly's car, which was her and her husband. Some websites say her children were with her, but that is not true. Her children were with his mother being babysat that night.
That's right.
The second car had 3 people. It had a bank manager, his wife, and a health professional in the car who was another female friend. So 1 male and 2 females. And they're referred to as Bill and Jane, the married couple, and Glenda. Now, there was a third car as well, and it took a little bit longer to find this man. But crucially, the third guy had his headlights on, and that enabled Kelly to see the silhouettes of the middle people. You're talking, after midnight here, so she wouldn't have seen them otherwise.
Right.
So his headlights were on, and he at the time, that gentleman's referred to as David, and he was a Victorian government legal worker. That's all I know about him. So these other people have not come out since that time either. And I think that is really the researchers found those people at the time. But as far as the public is concerned, as far as us as UFO students are concerned, we don't have access to those people, which is one of the big frustrations about that case. And my appeal now in the 21st century is, let's see if these people can come forward. Now's the time to talk about this event. You're talking 1993 to 2016. We have moved on in time. People are ready to hear about this case. Come forward and let us hear the story as you would tell it.
Amazing. And
yes.
Now, one of the things, the way that she describes the case to me, like you said, you can go down the check marks, but it's not, it's, how do I say this? I want to say this right. I don't want to say this wrong. When you witness something, somebody comes up to you and says, excuse me, did you see that? Well, you can immediately say, if you were there, clothes, shoes, but it's the little things. I heard change in somebody's pocket. I saw the little details that you do, and that's what she did in this case. The car, the white car with the headlights on, right? Illuminating the other 3 people that pulled up in the blue car. Otherwise, she wouldn't have. It's those details that you don't make up if you're hoaxing something. And
that's right. And an interesting point that I want, that is, which kind of like what happened was there was 110 meters between Kelly and car 2, and there was about 25 to 35 meters between car 2 and car 3. Now, they all were obviously totally boggled by this thing that was hovering out in the paddock, which, guys, just to give you an impression, it was the size of an Olympic swimming pool, okay, and about 2 to 3 stories tall.
Right.
So it was a very big object, about 150, 170 metres set back in the field. Now, if they had all congregated together, maybe that might have been a better thing to do. But this is me talking now, and I'm not standing there in front of a high strangeness encounter. So they were all separate. They were 3 distinctly separate parties. And the aliens or the beings dealt with them in that situation as well. So it's a very interesting point that, they were all in separate locations. Perhaps if they had have all run together, it might have been something that would have been good to have done. But, hey, none of us were there at after midnight that night.
And you know what else was curious for me, Ben? I'd like your comment on this. The other witnesses, when the beings were floating up, right, and they described them basically the same.
Yes,
7 foot tall, black, Grim Reaper type creatures. We're talking about independent witnesses that saw the exact same thing, except Kelly says that glowing red eyes.
That's correct.
The other witnesses said, I didn't see
the
glowing red eyes. And that, to me, sends chills down my spine.
Look, there was two completely different experiences. And I think this is part of the nature of the phenomenon, is that each experiencer is having their own experience.
Right.
And there are some things that are connected to it that are the same, but there's other things that aren't. Now, Kelly's paradigm at the time, she was Pentecostal, okay? She would lock herself away in her room for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, reading the Bible, absorbing every passage of the Bible. So she had a very, very Christian view of the world. And through her paradigm at that time, she saw them as demons, as soulless creatures. And for her, it was a very hysterical experience. The other witnesses didn't quite have that reaction to it. They didn't have that background that she had. So you don't get Glenda, Bill, and Jane quite in the same vein that she had, that she was calling them soul vampires. And Kelly had a whole host of other things that happened around the event as well, which we could talk for hours about. So, yes, so getting back to that original point, they all had a slightly different experience, including the men. The male experience was different from the female experience.
To me, again, I'm always looking for holes. I want to trip somebody up. I just want to see, you know?
Yeah.
And when it's presented like this, it freaks me out. It just has the air of truth to it.
Look, the case. So I can't stress enough how big this case is and how big it was.
Right.
It really. Guys, get out there, research it, read about it, find out all you can. Get her a book, Encounter. It's not been published anymore, but you get a copy on eBay or somewhere. Get it, read it, absorb it. If you're an experiencer, if you're a UFO student, grab that book, read it. You will be blown away by how that whole story comes together, how complex it is.
Yeah, it's an amazing case. We're going to be up against a break here. A couple of things. One, Lynn and Oz, she just goes, "You got to talk about Frederick Valentich. You got to talk about that case." And that case, when I and you'll enjoy this, Ben. When I'm doing my research and I'm the UFO guy years ago, and I got addicted to Frederick's case. Yeah. I went in. All my chips were pushed into the middle of the table. That case, I'm serious. That case to this day freaks me out, and it's one of those cases that we need to get you back on the show, and I promise you, Lynn, we'll do a whole 2 hours on Frederick's case. Again, I don't know how you guys do this in Australia, but you guys have these compelling, comprehensive cases, and Frederick Valentich's case is one of the most fascinating in all of ufology. In fact, all three cases tonight we're talking about are top 10 cases.
They are. Jimmy, if we were sitting around a campfire, I could really give you some great Australian UFO tales that would send chills down your spine, and everybody and all the listeners as well. Our cases here have been really good cases. You've had, you've got, as you say, you've got Westall, you've got Valentich, you've got Kelly Cahill, you've got the bending headlights case at Burke's Flat.
Right.
You've got Mundrabilla in Western Australia. You've got so many cases out there that are really highly credible cases with trace evidence, with distressed witnesses. The whole thing that's happened down here, it is all there.
And you got Pine Gap.
And you've got Pine. We have Pine Gap. It's your facility sitting in our backyard.
Yeah, man, you got Pine Gap. And you know what else you got? Oh, I'm going to flip you out. Have you ever seen the movie Wolf Creek?
Yeah, I've seen the movie Wolf Creek.
Okay, well, you also got that, too.
Yeah.
Man.
We sure have.
Yeah, I remember the first time. I've got it on DVD, right? I got the special edition, and I watched it, and I ended up getting really into that movie and watched it a few times. But I remember getting to the end of the movie, and they were like, this is a true story. And I was like, what? Then I get to the documentary on it and ended up getting really deep into that case and the family and what actually happened out there. And it turned out that movie, and for our audience, that movie is one of the scariest movies you can watch. And then you find out that it's a true story or based on actual events, and it's just like,
it's really probably closely based on a serial killer we had in New South Wales called Ivan Milat. He really fits the profile for Wolf Creek. So, yeah, look, Australia has to give people a perspective, Australia is the same geographical size as the United States of America. It's the same size, but we have 20 million people.
I know, right?
So it's very sparsely populated. Most people live in the cities. I live in the country. I'm 3 hours out in the country, but the majority of our population live in those centres. So there's lots of lonely skies. But the UFOs don't just appear in the lonely skies. They appear in the cities. They appear in the larger regional areas, out on the lonely roads.
Let me jump in, Ben. We're on a break. This is Fade to Black. Ben Hill, live from Australia. Ben Hurle, when we come back. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is number 1. Are you ready for your life change? Let the tea help you. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood. Not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Getting an update from Big Bear live right now. Says that we're going to open up some additional seating due to high demand. Yes, tickets will be sold at the door, first come, first serve. And I guess Trevor says, would you like to give away? I think I'm reading this right. Trevor, I'm going to do it right now. and you're not going to have any way to stop this. I've got 5 passes for the Mixer with George Norrie. 5 free passes to the Mixer. If you are going to Alien Snowfest, and you can hear my voice right now, and you want to go to the Mixer, the meet and greet with all of the speakers and yours truly, give me a call, 323-825-5045. And you know what? I'm going to do this at 9:30. I'll do this in 25 minutes. I'm going to end up lighting the phone lines up when I've got Ben on the show, and I want to talk about Westall. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm just so excited about Alien Snowfest. And now there's going to be another Alien Snowfest in August up there, and you've got to fly out for that. And I'll talk to Trevor, and we'll get you to fly out and speak at the Alien Summerfest instead of Snowfest.
Mate, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be great to hang out with you. See, I'm doing this right now, and with the guy that's putting all of this on, he's listening to me going, Jimmy, what are you doing? Wait, stop. But it'd be really cool. Okay, now Westall and the let me say this to the audience really quick. After the show tonight, after Ben and I are done talking, what you need to do is just go and Google Westall UFO, click on video. There is a documentary out there that is one of the most awesome UFO documentaries of all time, period. Done. That's the end of story on it. And you know what I'm talking about, Ben. And in this documentary, you have the kids are now adults talking about what they saw in 1966. It is insanely great. It's one of the best UFO documentaries out there. I suggest, and I guarantee you'll have some crazy dreams after watching that documentary. Now, let's set this up really quick. It is the 50th anniversary. It happened April 6, 1966, in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. First quick question, Ben. How close are you to where this happened at the school?
Okay, this occurred out in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne in an area called Westall, and I'm about 3 hours away from it where I live here.
Okay.
So I don't live close to the actual area, but I have been to the location many, many times.
And now with this, and I want to get this out as fast as possible. I don't want to run out of time. We, in researching this, I don't think everybody knows if it was one craft, if it was a couple of craft, but certainly at that location at the elementary school where it landed in the field, how far behind the trees, how far away from the school was that? You were there.
It's probably just I'd say possibly about 800 meters or so.
Okay.
So, and at the times it was market gardens there. So they were growing lettuces and all that sort of stuff between there, and the kids ran across the market gardens. Now it's all houses, so it's like everywhere else. It's all been built out.
Right.
And just quickly, the documentary you're talking about is called Westall 66, A Suburban Mystery, and it is without doubt one of the best UFO investigations ever on film.
Yeah, it is. It is truly. It's like top 2. It is right there. It is an incredible documentary. And and also the animations that are done in it are incredible too as well. Now, okay, so over 200 witnesses to this event. You had teachers, students, principals, all the staff at the school. Everybody saw it from the windows, went outside, observed this, and this lasted for over 20 minutes.
That's correct. You also had the workers in the fields also saw the object, and one of the best witnesses I've ever spoken to was 16 years old. So he was one of the older kids rather than 12.
Right.
And he was actually working in the fields at the time, and he saw one of the objects come across the field, and he thought he described it as being like a projection. And when it reached the Grange, which is the reserve area, the trees that are there are kind of a pine tree, a very tall pine tree.
Right.
And he saw the object go through the trees. Now, not just through the trees, but it dematerialized and went literally through the trees. So, and the way he described that to me, and it's on our UFO TV a YouTube channel, the way he describes that to me is as convincing and as matter of fact, and you can take it to the bank that that's what he saw.
What did he? Go ahead, tell us what he said. How did he say it?
Well, what happened was he was working in the fields at the time, and basically he saw the object come across the sky, and he looked at it and he thought, "What the hell is that?" He thought that someone was on the ground projecting an image into the sky. Now, in 1966, I don't think so. Like, that type of technology certainly wouldn't have been around. And in Melbourne's eastern suburbs at that time, no way.
Yeah, crazy thing to say. Yeah.
So he saw it come across the from the school across to the Grange area, and he saw the kids starting to come as well. So the kids were following it as they jumped out over the school fence, and they started racing across the field as well. And he said that he saw it coming along. He described it very similarly to what the children described as well. So if you watch the documentary, you'll see that the description is of a metallic style sort of a disc. And then he saw when it got to the trees, it actually just sort of faded into the trees. Now, you talked about how many objects were there. Now, that varies a bit depending on who you talk to. Some people saw one object, some people saw two, some people saw three. But I believe that the common number is that there was actually three objects that appeared. Now, if you watch the documentary also, you'll see that one of the objects, there were several landing spots, and one of them landed next to the school. Now it's a road, a bloody bituminized road, but at the time it was just a vacant paddock, and it landed next to it. And one of the students jumped over the fence, and he touched the object, and he described it as having a heat coming off it. And the heat was quite strong, but he still touched it. Then it took off, and then it went over to the Grange. Now, the students also reported that people reported that there was 5 planes in the sky. Now, when the planes appeared, the objects basically disappeared and left those little planes for dead. They just took off and they were gone. So you're talking about 11 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about a broad daylight encounter with multiple witnesses of high strangeness objects. And at the time, it became an urban legend, and it was hushed up very, very quickly at the time too. All the children were taken back to school, the principal, the military that turned up. They all told the children not to talk about it. Those who did, one of the ladies did an interview with Channel 9.
Right.
They did an interview with the local leader newspaper. Those kids got grounded for doing that.
The videotape from the TV station is gone, missing.
Yep, Channel 9 did footage on it, and Shane Ryan went to their archives. That footage is gone. Who actually turned up on the day is still contentious, whether it was Australian military, whether it was US military, because you're talking Vietnam War era here. So the uniforms that turned up were blue. Some of them may have been police. Some of them may have been US Air Force. So, and there's a big push at the moment in Australia to try and get the authorities from the time to come forward. They've got lots of witnesses. All the kids have spoken about it.
Right.
But we need the military guys who came for the cleanup. They've got to come out and tell us before they all croak it.
What was Shane's last name?
Shane Ryan.
I think he's tweeting right now on Twitter and listening to us.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. So he would be good to get on the show to talk to you about Westall as well, Jimmy, because he really is the leading expert on that case.
I just tweeted him back. Are you the Shane Ryan?
Yeah, the Shane Ryan. That's right.
Let's see if that's interesting. And wow. And see, that's why I love this show. The audience is so friggin' big. And people over in Australia, I just dig it. And hold on. I think this is him. Okay, anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked. One of the fascinating things about this case is there was a huge class that was out doing sports activities out there, and they stop and they watch this thing cruise over. It's not. I don't want to paint a different picture for everybody. Everybody saw it, and they were out on the parade field, out on the pitch, if you will, and watched this thing cruise over. Then everybody inside of the school goes up to the windows, and they see what everybody else is reacting to outside. And it literally came across, flew over the trees or through the trees, and then landed in the grass about a quarter mile away.
That's correct. And then you had, basically within 20 minutes to half an hour, you had the authorities turning up. So the authorities got there very quickly, and when you watch the documentary, you can see that there weren't too many places for them to come from back in 1966 in Melbourne, Australia. So they did get there very quickly. They certainly knew something was in the air, whether it was, the debate rages as to what the object was. But the authorities certainly knew there was something coming down in the suburbs, and they were there pretty quickly. And for 1966, I think they were there. They were there in very good time.
Now, one of the other things that I want you to comment on this was, I believe, didn't something land like in the town square in the middle of the street, and there were some utility workers there, and this thing came down and landed in the street and blocked traffic?
Yeah, that's possible. I'm not overly familiar with that aspect of it, so I couldn't really give you much more detail on that.
Okay.
As I said, there were 3 objects that came down. One of them did definitely land over near a housing area that's there now. So the broad daylight nature of this almost bold approach of these objects is really quite astounding. That these objects have appeared in broad daylight. They've come out and they've just landed without regard, really, for the people that were around, whether they were in the street, whether they were working in the fields, whether they were students. These objects came and they did what they wanted to do. They landed on the ground. They took off. Once they saw the planes in the air, they just disappeared.
What do you think happened with the footage that Channel 9 had shot?
I would say that most likely the heads of Channel 9 were probably ordered to confiscate that footage. That footage probably ended up in a government file somewhere, and it's highly unlikely that we will probably ever get to see that footage. It's probably locked up in some file that's top secret.
You said it is Shane, by the way, and he says, good day from Canberra. That's where he is now. And so Shane was 16. How many other witnesses were you able to interview and make contact with?
Well, look, I've spoken to probably about 3 or 4 of them myself individually, and everyone that I've spoken to, and I want to impress this upon everybody who's listening, all these guys are now, in their 50s, 60s. They're getting a lot older. Every one of those witnesses will tell you straight up and straightforward what they saw on that day. Now, they were told that it was weather balloons and stupid things like that, but anyone who saw those objects will tell you that it was none of the prosaic explanations that were offered. The passion of the testimony, the honesty of them is beyond reproach. And I have been really, really impressed, and I've interviewed quite a few UFO witnesses over a few years. The integrity of the Westall witnesses is incredible, and anyone who gets the privilege of talking to them to hear the story directly for them. One of them is on my team as well, in my UFO team. They're very impressive.
What do you make of the possibility of experimental craft from the Air Force Base and the airport that's close by?
The airport that is close by is a civilian airport, and it's primarily used for smaller aircraft. So it's not like a LAX or a Tullamarine in Melbourne. It's not where you've got big hardware touching down and landing. It's basically a large suburban airfield. So you've got the Cessnas coming and going. That's where Fred Valentich left from on that fateful night,
right,
October 21st. He flew from that very airfield and took off to go to Bass Strait. So any of the local planes in that area would have most likely come from Moorabbin. which is not that far away. And that's what the witnesses said. They said, we saw planes in the sky all the time here. They're always flying over. Even in 1966, they were seeing aircraft on a regular basis. So when these objects arrived on that particular fateful day, they could see quite clearly that this was something strange.
Nobody ever said, I don't think, and I've seen the documentary so many times and have followed up on this, I don't think any of the witness ever said that there was a possibility that it could have been a balloon, a dirigible, a blimp, an experimental aircraft, that it was ours. Nobody said that.
No, look, I mean, as I said, like you're talking 1966. Obviously, the hardware that was in the sky that day was something really, really, really amazing. Now, in Australia, yes, they did do some testing back in the 50s and the 60s. They certainly did do. But I don't think they were testing that type of hardware, that type of exotic stuff down here. You guys have got your own test locations wrapped up in your own deserts. So, at that time, I don't think we were doing that type of testing here. Now, there's a balloon theory that it was a highball weather balloon. That type of thing also, the objects behaved in a way that indicated that there was intelligent control and that they had the ability to descend and to take off again. So balloons are pretty much at the bereft of the winds. They don't have a lot of control over where they go. So you're talking about controlled objects that made decisions about where they were going. So therefore, that implies either it has a pilot inside it or it has a drone-based technology. But I'm sure 1966, we didn't have drones flying around down here.
Any photographs? Anything survive?
There's photographs of the school, the students, the general area at the time. The photos that were taken by the chemistry teacher, her camera was taken, which is, as is said in the documentary.
Right.
That was taken away from her, and I'm sure she maybe she didn't get reimbursed for that. So the photos that were taken on the day were taken. Now, the other interesting thing too, Jimmy, is that, the military were absolutely there on that day. No question about it. Now, in the early 80s, one of our most eminent researchers, Bill Chalker, had the ability to go through and look at all the RAF's files. They opened them up for him. Now, he had a bit of a shopping list when he went. Now, he found nothing on Westall. He found nothing on Burke's Flat. He found nothing on the key cases that he was looking for, where there were definitely military people sent who would have done reports. Their time is accounted for. They went and saw Ron Sullivan from Bending Headlights, and no reports are available. So those reports are either tied up in military command in Australia, or most likely they are probably in the US.
What about the police department there in Westall?
Well, I mean, the police department the police generally in Australia don't have a UFO response. They have no protocols for dealing with UFOs, despite there are some really good police encounters that have occurred over the years. They don't have any way of dealing with a UFO encounter any more than a civilian does, really. There's no protocol for them to follow. They would really only be responding in terms of there's an incident at the school, the principal probably called the police. That would be the level of their involvement, and it would be about civil control as you would normally expect it to be in keeping the peace. So police officers, for the most part, are generally very unimaginative. And for the most part, they would have rocked up there and just dealt with it as they needed to deal with it. There are other great police cases that have occurred here in Victoria as well, and I could talk to you about that another day, where police struggled to respond to a high strangeness event. So I think it's something that perhaps they need to consider is maybe they do need a protocol for these sort of things.
Well, I would think, in society, our most precious commodity, the one thing, is an elementary school, our children.
Yes.
And we have something extraordinary going on there. The police must have been dispatched. Not only that, but they had to write up reports. They had to. It's such an important event. Where are those documents today? And to be sure, this audience needs to understand this incident did indeed happen. The news was there. The military was there. There's 200 witnesses. The incident itself happened. So the police were there. Everybody was, and it was in the middle of the day at 11 a.m., by the way. So there was documentation there. Where is that today?
That's right. It's most likely been swept. There's only two possibilities, as I see it. The documentation is either locked up in secret files, can't access it. Sorry, you're not going to get it.
Right.
Or alternatively, with the passage of time and the effort to find the information on it has only occurred since the new millennium in terms of, like really going after this stuff. So the records could be destroyed. So there's that possibility as well too. Victorian Records Office, we went there for the Burke's Flat case and we chased down records that were available for that. So all the researchers in Australia are doing as much due diligence as they can. They're fine-tooth going through all the available information. Now, if it's not there, it probably isn't available.
How is the Australian government with not only Freedom of Information Act documentation and releasing of documents, but how are they when it comes to the subject of UFOs? Are they open? Are they closed? Is it similar to the UK? Is it more like the United States? Or is it like Argentina?
Look, our government, one thing you've got to realise about Australia is that for the most part, it's a Western country, it's a fairly conservative place. So we have a two-party political system here, the Labor Party and the Liberal Party, and they're both very similar, and for the most part, you can toss a coin as to which one, is going to do a better or a worse job. So it's a very conservative background. I think that with that basis, that our government is very much followed the US model. So the RAF was responsible for investigating UFOs, and they hated doing it. They were not interested in it. The public at one point in time could ring the RAF directly about the lights in the skies they saw while they were taking the bins out.
Right.
And we followed the American model, and we basically shut that down. They said, look, there's nothing to it. It's not a defense issue. Go take your reports to the civilian groups that are out there. Don't waste our time. The police didn't want their time wasted either. So the authorities basically publicly said, there's nothing to this. You don't have to worry. Most of the explanations are logical events, and for those that we don't have explanations, there's probably information missing. So, where otherwise they would find a logical explanation. So, the classic swamp gas, balloons, all that sort of stuff was trouted about for most of the cases that were there. So, but having said that, they have taken an interest. They have gone to where they've had to go to. Now, there's nothing like the media getting behind a particular case like they did with Kelly Cahill, like they did with Burke's Flat. Westall was squashed fairly flat at the time. You really only had the Leader newspaper and the Channel 9 thing that got squashed as well. So when the cat gets out of the bag and it's running around in the room, that's when the authorities will tend to take interest. The Fred Valentich case was one where they had to take interest. Here you've got a civil pilot has gone missing.
Right.
So it has to be investigated. So they really only come out and do things when they have to do things. And what they do is they'll take it, they'll investigate it, they'll wrap those reports up in and make it very hard for people to access for extended periods of time.
Well, with the Westall case and Frederick's case too, you're right, because that is an FAA. I don't know what your aviation administration is called over there, but it certainly becomes a civil aviation issue. And
it wasn't, a Department of Transport, a safety issue. There was a lot around that particular case, and with this guy just disappearing into thin air. What does it say about the safety of our skies,
Well,
so,
and there's got to be documentation behind it. And with Westall, the fascinating thing is I remember as I started to investigate the case, and I find out that, the newspapers are there. They're interviewing children, and the local news channel is there. And I'm like, okay, so we have documentation here. I go to chase it all down, and it's non-existent. And that's a fascinating part. This is 1966. We're not talking about 1930, 1940, 1947. This is 1966. television, news reporters, things going on. And there were, it was documented, and this is modern history. This isn't, like I said, the 1940s or the 1930s. This is a modern event.
It is a modern event. And look, to a certain extent, you look at the Westall situation, and this is what I find very, very curious about the Westall situation. If these craft had just turned up out of the blue, right, which they did do, right, and the authorities didn't know it was coming, right, the response was very, very quick. So that somebody was there on site in a very, very quick period of time. So either I'm not alluding as to what the object was, whether it was an alien spacecraft or a bit of exotic earthbound hardware. It wasn't like these things came down and the authorities didn't turn up in a really timely fashion. It was like 2 hours later somebody turned up. You're talking about and I think for the time too, a fairly quick response time. You go to Melbourne now and try to get somewhere in half an hour.
Can't do it.
You can't do it. You literally can't do that. So admittedly, it probably wasn't as busy traffic-wise back then, but the authorities were onto it. They got there very, very quickly. The children were silenced very, very quickly.
They were tracking them, and they were following them, and that's why they were there.
That's correct. They knew, whether they knew what the object was or not, they knew the objects were coming, and I think it's the fairly quick response that they showed that would perhaps indicate that may have been the case.
I got to thank you for coming on the show, Ben, and I know it's in the middle of your day and you've got stuff to do, and you made a special time for us here to get this in tonight, and thank you so much, and I can't wait to get you stateside. Thank you so much.
Mate, that'd be great, Jimmy. Thanks for the chance, mate.
You got it. Ben Hurle and Victorian UFO Action, and it's VUFOA.com is the website. Thank you, Ben. Great stuff. This is Fade to Black. I got to head to a break. We'll do that, and when I come back, we'll get to all the news that you know nothing about, as well as I'm going to give away some passes to the meet and greet at Alien Snowfest. If you are going and you want to go to the meet and greet and hang out with everybody, give me a call, 323-825-5045. I'll be right back.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hi, folks. Ray Hobbs here with KGRA to tell you about something very special taking place in February 2016. I'm talking about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place at the beautiful ski and snowboard resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. We've got Richard Dolan, Chase Kletzky, Micah Hanks, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barra, and keynote speaker Stanton Friedman will be presented a Lifetime Achievement Award. George Norrie and his producer Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM Live will be with us all weekend. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself a retreat on top of the world the first weekend in February 2016 with a one-of-a-kind ufology event featuring some of the top minds in the field. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now and register at aliensnowfest.com. I'll be there. Don't miss out.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99, and you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? What a night tonight. Richard Dolan, Ben Hurle. Unbelievable. That Westall case. That Westall, that's a fair dinkum UFO case, if there ever was one. That's right. We love Australia on this show. All right, let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Jimmy, it's Dan Zukowski from Boulder. How's it going?
Hey, Dan, what are you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I was just calling in because, I'm going to the Alien Snowfest this weekend, and I was really enjoying the Richard Dolan preview tonight. Really looking forward to his talk. And I hope to make it to his workshop, too, because at CICD, that was one of the workshops I really wanted to go to, but I didn't get to attend. So I think I'm going to go in for it this time.
Okay, so you want to go to the meet and greet?
Well, yeah, that's what I was calling.
Okay, you're in.
You got an extra pass?
Yeah,
thanks, brother.
I got one for you.
Hey, that is awesome.
See
Wow,
how
cool.
easy
Thanks,
that
Jimmy.
was? So you're flying in from Colorado?
Yes, sir. I'm flying in from Colorado. I'm going to get in late Thursday night, so I'll be there Friday morning when things get started.
Yeah, right. I hear you. Yeah, we're going to get there Thursday afternoon-ish. So excited.
It's a complete flip from Joshua Tree and the 110-degree weather that we have in the summertime at CICD. We're going to get the opposite side of the spectrum, a little taste of the elevation and the cold. So, hey, you got to mix it up. You got to keep it interesting.
Man, I can't wait to see you. You coming in by yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Dan, we'll see you, and I can't wait to hang out with you. And,
Radical.
Yeah, you know the drill. Wink, wink. And so we'll go do all of that stuff. But certainly we'll see you at the meet and greet, too, Saturday as well. All right. You know what? I was going to ask you where you're staying. Just let us know off of the air. All right, Dan?
It's a deal. All right. Thanks, brother.
Hey, man. Thank you. There you go. You want to go to the meet and greet mixer? Are you going to Alien Snowfest? Give me a call. 323-825-5045. Dan just got his tickets to the meet and greet. And if you're going and you want to go to the meet and greet, give me a call. 323-825-5045. Kind of funny. You guys like that? Fair dinkum. Yeah, that's right. That's what Alien Snowfest is going to be, one fair dinkum of an event. That's what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. All right. 323-825-5045. The Zika fear porn update. Oh, the calls are coming in. Okay, let's see who we got here. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Eric.
Eric, are you going? You're going to Alien Snowfest?
Yep, I'm picking John up at the airport at around 7, and we're driving up that road.
Okay, so you guys, there's 2 tickets right there. I'll get you and John set up. Thank you, Eric. We'll get you some free free tickets to the mixer. Thank you so much, brother.
Okay, I'll see you guys there. Take care.
Okay, man. Don't forget your snow chains.
I got them.
I'll talk to you, Eric. Thank you so much.
$112. I got them in the bag.
I'll see you in a couple of days, Eric.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You got it. There you go. He just got his passes to the mixer. All right. I've got 2 left. Are you going to Alien Snowfest? If you're going and you want to go to the mixer, the meet and greet with George Norrie and all of the other speakers, you want to go, give me a call. 323-825-5045. It's going to be a great event. Now, where was I? Oh, my favorite subject. The Zika fear porn update of the day. That's right. The first case of Zika virus transmitted inside of the United States has just been reported in Dallas, Texas. Health officials confirmed today. Dallas County health officials said that the virus was acquired through, are you ready? This is fear porn. Sexual transmission. According to the news release from the Dallas County Health and Human Services, the patient, who has not yet been identified, reportedly had sexual contact with an infected individual who returned from a country where the Zika virus is present. That is fear porn. That's fear porn right there. I was reading just like everybody else today. Tomorrow we're going to have John Rappaport on to talk about all of this. But I was, reading all of the latest stuff today, and it's 3 to 4 million people are potentially going to be infected, and it's going to happen over the next year, and now it's sexually transmitted. You know, that is fear porn. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's John from New Hampshire. What's going on?
How you doing, John from New Hampshire? You coming out to Alien Snowfest?
Oh, you're damn right I am.
Are you really? You're coming out?
All the way from New Hampshire, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you want to go to the meet and greet? You want to go to the mixer?
Yeah,
you want to come hang out with George Norrie and Richard Dolan and Linda Moulton Howe? I think Stanton Friedman's even going to have a martini.
Oh, I see. That would be great. It'd be an honor.
All right, John, we'll get you hooked up. Do me a favor, read an email right now, and just let her know, and we'll get it all set up for you, okay? What day are you getting there?
I'm getting in late Thursday.
Late Thursday? Okay, so then we'll see you Friday for sure. We're pulling into town Thursday afternoon, and we're going to go do our thing. But there you go. We'll see.
I'm hooked up with Rita already, so she already talked to me.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much, John, man. We'll see you in a couple of days. It's going to be a great event. Thank you so much.
All right, Jimmy. See you.
I'll talk to you. There you go. I've got 1 pass left. If you're going to Alien Snowfest and you want to go to the mixer, the meet and greet with George Norrie, hold on here. No change. Trevor, I'm getting the updates in real time. No change required. Sunny skies, fresh snow, clear roads. All right. There you go. All right. I've got 1 pass left for the meet and greet. 323-825-5045. You're going to Alien Snowfest. So, yeah, man, we've got, that's cool. John's flying in from Boulder. John's coming in from New Hampshire. Eric's coming in from up the coast here in L.A., picking up somebody that's flying in, John Polk from Florida. That's what I'm talking. It's going to be a great event. You want to go. You do. 323-825-5045. Ah, yes, here we go. The National Security Agency. It wouldn't be a Fade to Black episode without news from the NSA. Yes, it is the largest electronic spy agency in the world. I don't think anybody actually knows how many employees there are. My guess, in excess of 200,000, 100,000, 200,000. But now it is undertaking a major reorganization. It's merging its offensive, yes, and its defensive, yes, sides of the fence right now. those two groups, those two organizations at the NSA are merging in the hope of making them more adept at facing the digital threats of the 21st century. And this is according to current and former officials. In place of the Signals Intelligence and Information Assurance Directorate, and that's scary, the organizations that historically have spied on foreign targets and defended classified networks against spying, the NSA is creating a directorate of operations that combines the operational elements of each. The change comes about a year after the CIA did its own revamping, ending divisions that had been in place for decades and creating new centers that teams the analysts with the operators. The NSA's new Directorate of Operations also will place analysts with the operators. Spooky. Does anybody really know? Does anybody really know anything about the NSA? Anybody listening to this show right now? Do you know somebody that works at the NSA? Anybody in your family? Any neighbors? Do you know anything? You don't. It's crazy. That is the most secretive. We don't know nothing. We don't know budgets. We don't know what they do, how they do it. I had read something just today. I didn't want to report on it because I want to get a little more detail. I'll do it tomorrow. But the NSA, you know what their focus is on? You know what they have teams of guys doing? I'll get some more information on this tomorrow. I'm collecting it now. You know what their main focus is? Seriously? Passwords. Yeah. Passwords. They want your passwords. That's what they focus on. They want your passwords. They want your boss's passwords. And the system administrators at your company right now, they want their passwords. Oh, yeah. That's what they want. That's what they're focused on. Their software, how they do it and how they get into a system, how they do it. You know what? They get your passwords. Then they get inside. That's their focus. And if you think about it in those terms, that's when it gets creepy. They want to know. So they have software and ways of analyzing and getting to passwords, right? They have ways of inputting the password and hitting the enter key faster than you can blink an eye. Millions. Think about that. Vast crowds right now trying to head home for the Lunar New Year celebrations in China right now are stranded at the Guangzhou railway station. See, I saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I can speak Chinese. Shoo. The Guangzhou railway station in southern China after snow delayed 22 trains. They said today, are you ready? Is this thing on? This thing working? 38,000 passengers are stuck in the train station. And then, after that report was released, they actually came out and said it wasn't 38,000. It was over 100,000 stuck in the airport. You ever seen those videos? You know, there are people right now that have jobs in China. Their job is to push people into crowded trains and get the doors shut. It's their job. Have you seen those videos? People are cramming into, and then you see them running up. It's like a defensive line on an NFL football team. They come running up and they push everybody onto the train and pack them in and get the door shut. Man, I want that job. The U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Justice Department said today that they reached an agreement with Toyota Motor Credit Corporation. That's right. for it to pay $21.9 million in restitution to thousands of African American and Asian and Pacific Islander borrowers who paid higher interest rates than white borrowers for the same cars, for the same loans, without any regard to their credit worthiness. Toyota Motor Credit will also change its pricing and compensation. That's right. The entire system that they use right now when determining at the dealer level the discretion and accompanying financial incentives to mark up interest rates. Now, think about you don't know when you buy a car. If anybody out there listening right now is a car salesman, you know exactly what I'm about to say. And this is what is shameful. You go in, you fill out the credit app, right? Credit score is 700. You're thinking you're getting a great interest rate. Okay? And they come back with an interest rate, and you see it. And you're black. It's automatically a higher interest rate. That's the way that it is. Just you're Mexican, you're white, whatever. But you don't know. There is nothing automatic in the system that tells you that that says to them, because they have a credit score of 700, this is the credit rate. You could get a credit rate of 1.9%, 0.9%. But they don't make money if they do that. So they come back to you and hit you with a 3.9, 4.9, 6.9. If your credit score is 650, 640, and you think it's a little dicey, that's fine to a car dealership. But they come back, you don't know. There's nothing that, who determines the credit, your percentage rate on your interest on your loan? Some guy in a sales office. And the higher, that it is a ton of money that they make. I'm just telling you how it is. So then they turn around. They've got your, they've got your payment is in place. It's $300 a month with $2,000 down. It's $300 a month at the interest rate of 5.9. Then the finance manager, after the deal is closed, calls the bank and gets that, it's not 5.9, gets it down to 2.9. That extra profit goes into the pockets of the car dealership, and you don't know it. It is the biggest racket that ever was. Trust me on this. If you only knew when you buy, you think you think you got your inside guy at the car dealership. No. They got a zillion ways of making money, and that's one of them. And Toyota got busted. They got busted. And the same thing that happened to Toyota, it's every car dealership. It's every car manufacturer. It's every car manufacturer's bank. And always remember, Toyota is loaning you money to buy their cars. That's what's funky. They're in control of that. They're loaning you their own money to buy their cars. Doesn't make sense, does it? They got busted. All right, here's a good one for you. Super Bowl 50 is going to be this Sunday, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. It's going to be the most connected football game in history. What do I mean by that? Santa Clara's $2 billion Levi's Stadium will feature supercharged Wi-Fi, and telecoms are spending millions right now to increase cellular capacity to enable 140-character tweets, Facebook status updates, selfies on Snapchat, Vine loops, and however else those fans want to share that experience. You know what's going to go down. But then there's live streaming with apps like Twitter's Periscope, Facebook Live. How about Meerkat? How about Mavi? anyone, not just CBS now, can broadcast a Super Bowl. Think about what I'm saying. Not one of these apps existed during the past Super Bowl 1 year ago. So the question is whether the NFL is going to tolerate all of these new technologies that could theoretically, if you think about it, broadcast the game in real time. You're standing there with your smartphone, got your Periscope open, your Facebook Live, right? During the game, fans are expected to consume 16.5 terabytes of mobile data. Some of this, no doubt, is going to be for live streaming apps, which will be put up by users, perhaps unknowingly, on shaky, very shaky legal ground. The Super Bowl is different in that it's a free broadcast television show. It also is the most watched TV broadcast of the year. $400 million worth of TV ads. And you can bet that the NFL and CBS want to protect that. They have a strong interest in seeing that the only stream of the Super Bowl that people are going to watch are the ones with the commercials. Those streams on Roku, Xbox, Apple TV, NFL.com, Superbowl.com, and, of course, Verizon. So if you're going to the Super Bowl and you're planning on periscoping, you need to think about that. You might get a check in the mail. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling? Hi, you're live. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Carrie. I'm up in Big Bear.
Hey, Carrie in Big Bear. Are you going?
I'm going to the Alien Snowfest. I'm not going to the Super Bowl.
That's a good answer, Carrie. All right, are you calling for a free pass to the Mixer on Saturday night with George Norrie?
Of course I am. I can't wait to see you guys.
Okay, this is what I want you to do. Write Rita right now, Carrie. Okay, Rita at jimmychurchradio.com. Is it Carrie, C-A-R-E-Y?
No, it's not.
Spell it.
Try again. Okay, Kerrie.
Like it should be. And that's why I'm a doofus, Carrie, and you're not. Okay? Now, Carrie, I've got your phone number right here. Write Rita at jimmychurchradio.com. You know what to do. Write her, give her your first and last name, and with your phone number that I have here, and we'll get you on the guest list.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, and I look forward to seeing you in Big Bear.
All right, sounds good. Are you going to stay after and watch the Super Bowl also?
We are in flux mode. We have no idea. The Super Bowl starts at 2:30. The convention, the conference is still going on, so we have to figure that part out. But, it's Super Bowl Sunday, so it's going to be great regardless.
It is. Great weekend.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you. I'm glad you called in, and I caught you at the very end of the show, and we'll see you in 2 days in Big Bear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Take care.
We'll see you later.
All right. Okay, bye.
How cool is that? I gave away all 5 passes. That's what I'm talking about. I love this show. I love you guys. I love every single one of you. And if you're going, we'll see. Tomorrow night will be our last show of the week, and we will see if we can maybe get our hands on some more passes for you guys. All right? Now, before I let you go, investors who lost billions of dollars to the hedge fund manager Bernie Madoff and his Ponzi scheme could recover most of their initial investments, bankruptcy attorneys announced yesterday. More than $11 billion have been recovered. Attorney Irving Picard announced yesterday saying that investigators said that Madoff's clients entrusted him with more than $17 billion in all. They've recovered $11 billion. What's funny about the entire case is Madoff was walking around town bragging that he actually pilfered $60 billion. Where is the money? This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, John Rappaport is going to be right here. The Zika virus fear porn. A special report. Thank you, Richard Dolan. Thank you, Ben Hurle, live from Australia. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, John Rappaport. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. Cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, used, or anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want everybody to be safe. We'll see you right here tomorrow night. Go Pack Lee Tappy.